My wife confessed her affair was with a loan shark who she gave our house to as collateral. I replied, "That's a problem." Then I reported him to the police. She was left frantically calling me from the station. I'm 42 male, an architect. My name is Eric. My life is built on precision, on plans, on understanding that a flawed foundation will bring the whole structure down. I thought my marriage of 15 years was built on solid ground. I was wrong. It happened 3 nights ago, a Tuesday. We were cleaning up after dinner, and my wife, Amy, 40, was just standing there staring at the wall. She'd been off for months, jumpy, secretive with her phone. I'd steeled myself for the usual confession, an affair, a messy emotional ordeal. I was prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for this. "Eric," she said, her voice thin, "I need to tell you something." I turned off the water. "I'm listening." "I had an affair," she choked out, tears welling. I just nodded, waiting. Her panic was too raw for simple infidelity. "It wasn't what you think. It was about money. I got into some trouble. I borrowed some money." "Okay," I said evenly. "From who?" "From a man. His name is Nicholas," she stammered. "He helps people." The euphemism hung in the air. Loan shark. "How much, Amy?" "50,000, she whispered, and then another 25 when I couldn't make the payments. 75 grand. Her boutique clothing business had been struggling, a fact she'd been artfully hiding for over a year. I took a deep breath, forcing myself into architect mode. Assess the damage. "What did you give him for collateral?" She wouldn't look at me. That's when I knew. "He said it was just a formality," she wailed. "He had papers drawn up, a lien. He said we both had to sign. He even had a notary come to the coffee shop." The mention of a notary sent a jolt of ice through my veins. "Amy, I haven't seen a notary with you in years. He needed my signature." She finally broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. "I'm so sorry, Eric. I signed for you." The notary barely looked up. "It all happened so fast. I was so scared. I thought I could pay it back before you ever found out." She had forged my signature. She had used a complicit or negligent notary to legitimize a fraudulent document, handing the single biggest asset we owned, the home I designed myself, to a predator. I stood there, the silence broken only by her gulping sobs. My mind wasn't racing. It was eerily calm, processing data, forgery, felony fraud, a fraudulent, notarized lien against our property, a criminal lender. She expected me to yell. Instead, I looked at my wife of 15 years and said, "That's a problem." I went to the spare bedroom and closed the door. I didn't sleep. I made a plan. The next morning, I made 2 calls. The first was to the bulldog litigator my firm keeps on retainer. The second was to the police. I met my lawyer Gary that afternoon. "The forgery is your key," he said, his face grim. "But the notarization complicates it. It gives the document a presumption of validity. We won't just get this thrown out. We'll have to fight it with an action to quiet title. It will run parallel to everything else. It will be expensive." He paused. "And the only way to start is to report the entire crime to the police. That means reporting Nicholas, the notary, and Amy's forgery." "She'll face charges," I stated. "Without question," he confirmed. "She committed a felony. Your choice is this. You either accept a criminal holds the title to your home, or you burn the whole thing down and see what's left when the smoke clears." So, this morning, I did it. I walked into the central precinct and sat down with a detective in the financial crimes unit. I gave him a clear, chronological account. I told him about Nicholas, the suspicious notary, and the forgery. I've started a fire. I have no idea what will be left standing. Update 1. The initial explosion has given way to the grim reality of trench warfare. Amy was charged with felony fraud and released on bail. Her parents had to cash out a significant portion of their retirement fund to cover it and her legal retainer. The phone call from her father was laced with a venom I'd never heard. "We're risking our future because of what you did, Eric. You press a button and ruin everyone. A husband is supposed to fix things, not burn the house down." The concept that Amy lit the match was completely lost on them. In their narrative, I am the villain. I've barely spoken to Amy, except through the ice-cold medium of lawyers. My attorney, Gary, filed for divorce immediately. He also filed the quiet title action, the lawsuit to have a judge officially declare Nicholas's lien fraudulent and remove it from my deed. Nicholas, of course, has responded. His lawyer claims the lien is valid. that I was a willing silent participant and that my police report is a case of borrower's remorse. It's bullshit, but it's legally required bullshit that will cost me tens of thousands to fight. That fraudulent lien is still legally attached to my home, a cancerous growth I can't yet remove. The police investigation is moving at a glacial pace. The detective is methodical, but warns me that these cases are marathons. Nicholas is lawyered up and refusing to talk. The notary claims she doesn't remember the transaction, one of dozens she did that week. It's my word against a notarized document. The stress is immense. I'm not sleeping. Every creak of the floorboards sounds like an intruder. Last week, I made my first real mistake. During a preliminary phone conference with the lawyers, Amy's attorney was grilling me about our finances, implying I was a controlling husband who drove her to desperate measures. I snapped. I told him he was a parasite defending a criminal. Gary was furious with me afterward. You don't give them ammunition, Eric. You stay calm. You are the victim. Act like it. It was a stark reminder that my anger is a liability. Nicholas made his first move last night. It wasn't a crude threat. It was a single text message, precise and chilling. Unknown. I trust you're confident in your home's security system. Things can go wrong. Wires get frayed. It's always smart to have a professional check them. It was deniable, plausible. It was also a clear, unmistakable threat. I screenshotted it, sent it to Gary and the detective, and spent $3,000 the next day on a new, upgraded security system with more cameras. This is my life now. Her parents have started a quiet campaign, calling our mutual friends with a tearful, edited version of events. I'm the cold, cruel monster. She's the desperate wife who made a small mistake. I've already had 2 awkward calls from friends offering unsolicited advice to be the bigger man. 1 month in, and nothing is resolved. The house is still in jeopardy. The divorce is shaping up to be a war, and a criminal is texting me veiled threats. I haven't just cleared a condemned site. I've walked into the middle of its slow, grinding demolition, and I'm getting hit by the shrapnel. Update 2. The grind is wearing me down. If this were a building project, it would be the part where you're stuck in the mud, burning money on unforeseen soil issues with no visible progress. The depositions were hell. Amy's lawyer spent 6 hours trying to paint me as a financially abusive and emotionally distant husband. He brought up every argument we'd ever had about money, every time I'd questioned her business expenses. They are building a narrative that I left her with no choice but to seek outside help. It's infuriating because it's a funhouse mirror version of the truth. I wasn't controlling, I was concerned. But in a deposition transcript, the nuance is gone. Amy sat across the table, looking pale and thin, refusing to make eye contact. She just repeated the lines her lawyer had fed her. It wasn't like watching a stranger, it was like watching an animatronic version of my wife. Nicholas's harassment escalated in sophistication. The anonymous email to my firm's partners happened, but it was more insidious than I first imagined. He didn't just hint at instability. He included a link to the public court docket showing the quiet title action, framing it as a lawsuit where I was being sued over a massive debt. It caused a genuine panic. My partners stood by me, but only after our firm's legal department had several long, expensive meetings to wall themselves off from my personal legal entanglements. I'm still employed, but I can feel a new distance from my colleagues. I'm the guy with the drama. The real blow came last month. Nicholas, through his lawyer, filed a motion to force the sale of the house to satisfy the debt, pending the outcome of the quiet title action. It's a legal long shot, but the motion itself is a weapon. It forces me to spend money to fight it, and it creates a cloud of uncertainty. The hearing is in 2 months, and Gary says while we'll likely win, there's always a chance a judge could make a strange ruling. The stress is a constant, low-grade fever. I feel utterly alone. Our mutual friends have mostly fallen away, not wanting to take sides. My own family is supportive, but lives hundreds of miles away. The house is a mausoleum filled with ghosts of dinner parties and shared laughter. Some nights, the weight of it all is crushing. I sat in my car in the driveway for an hour last week, unable to go inside. I just leaned my head on the steering wheel, completely and utterly exhausted. This isn't a clean, strategic campaign. It's a war of attrition, and it's taking its toll. The detective called with a sliver of hope. They found another potential victim of Nicholas's, a small business owner who lost his van. But the man is terrified and reluctant to talk. For now, it's a dead end. The marathon continues, and I'm starting to wonder if I have the endurance to finish. Update 3: a year. A full year of my life consumed by this. The turning point came, but not in the way I expected. It wasn't a brilliant move on my part, but a classic case of the villain's hubris. The police finally got their break. The other victim, the one who lost his van, was facing his own financial ruin, and out of pure desperation decided to cooperate. Crucially, he had kept every piece of paper, every threatening text, and even had a recording of Nicholas explaining how the collateral process was just a formality. His evidence, combined with mine, gave the DA enough to start taking the case against Nicholas seriously. Feeling the heat, Nicholas tried a calculated, vicious gambit. He didn't forge texts, he used the truth as a weapon. His lawyer subpoenaed my personal and business financial records for the last 5 years, arguing they needed to prove I didn't have the means to help Amy, thus justifying her seeking an outside loan. The real purpose was to harass me, bury me in paperwork, and find anything, a late tax payment, a questionable business expense, to discredit me. It was a massive, invasive, and expensive nightmare. We spent weeks gathering documents. It was a professional colonoscopy, but he overplayed his hand. In the mountain of data, my lawyer found the accounts for Amy's boutique. Her spending was far worse than I ever knew. She hadn't just been covering business losses, she'd been spending lavishly on suppliers, travel, and business lunches that I now realize were part of her facade. This evidence demolished her lawyer's narrative that she was a helpless victim of my financial control. In trying to expose me, Nicholas had inadvertently exposed the depth of her deception. That revelation seemed to break something in Amy. Her parents' money was gone. Her lawyer was demanding more. The reality that she was facing a felony conviction with no savior in sight finally crashed down on her. We had a court-mandated settlement conference for the divorce. It was a disaster. Her lawyer was still posturing, but Amy was a wreck. During a recess, she cornered me in the hallway. The change was horrifying. The entitled anger was gone, replaced by a raw, animal panic. "Eric, you have to stop this," she pleaded, her voice ragged. "Call it off. I'll do anything. I'll say whatever you want. I can't go to jail. I have nothing. I'm living in my parents' basement." "It's too late for that, Amy," I said, my voice flat. "Then give me something," she hissed, grabbing my arm. "A house? Give me enough from the sale to start over. You owe me that. For 15 years, you owe me that." It wasn't a request for forgiveness. It was the desperate shriek of a cornered animal, still believing the world owed her an escape route. I pulled my arm away and walked back into the conference room. The war isn't over, but the endgame is in sight. Nicholas's trial date is set. The evidence against him is strong. Our motion to dismiss his claim on the house is finally going before a judge next month, and Gary is confident. The divorce is the last piece. Her desperation has made her unpredictable, but it has also shattered her credibility. The foundation is cracked beyond repair, and all that's left is to negotiate the demolition. Final update. The war is over. I didn't win a glorious victory. I survived a siege. The last 7 months were a slow, methodical grind to the finish line. There was no single day of triumph, just a series of small, exhausting battles that finally led to peace. Nicholas, his trial was a 6-day affair. The testimony from me, the other victim, and a reluctant Amy painted a clear picture of a predatory lender who exploited desperate people. His lawyer tried to portray him as a legitimate high-risk lender, but the jury saw through it. He was found guilty. I had hoped for a decade-long sentence, a true end to his career. He got 5 years. With parole, he might be out in 3. It's not the justice I wanted, but it's the justice I got. I have to live with that. The house. 2 weeks after Nicholas's conviction, we finally had our day in court for the quiet title action. With Nicholas's criminal conviction as evidence, the judge ruled the lien was unequivocally fraudulent and ordered it expunged from the deed. After 18 months of it hanging over my head, the house was finally, legally, mine again. I didn't even celebrate. I went home, poured a glass of whiskey, and sat in the dark, feeling the absence of that crushing weight for the first time. The relief was so profound, it felt like grief. Amy, faced with her own trial, she took the plea deal offered by the DA. In exchange for her testimony against Nicholas, she pleaded guilty to 1 count of felony fraud. She was sentenced to 5 years of probation and 1,000 hours of community service. She has a felony record that will shadow her for the rest of her life. The divorce. This was the last, ugliest battle. With the house secured, her only leverage was to drag me through a costly trial. We settled on the courthouse steps. The agreement was brutal but realistic. I kept the house, my car, and my entire pension. Our joint savings account had been drained by the first wave of legal fees. However, to avoid a trial, Gary advised me to make a one-time equalization payment of $15,000 drawn from my personal savings. It was galling. It felt like a reward for her behavior. But as Gary put it, do you want to pay her $15,000 to go away forever? Or do you want to pay me $50,000 to fight her in court and maybe get the same result? I wrote the check. It was the cost of freedom. Her last communication was a venomous email from a new address, accusing me of robbing her of her life and leaving her with nothing. It was filled with the same entitled rage, completely devoid of self-awareness. I deleted it without replying. I am 44 years old now. This ordeal has cost me nearly 2 years of my life, over $100,000 in legal fees and security upgrades, my marriage, and any remaining innocence I had about the world. I am not the same man who stood in his kitchen listening to a confession. That man was softer, more trusting. This one is cynical, wary, and tired. There was no satisfaction in watching Amy's downfall. There was only a grim sense of inevitability. She wasn't a monster, she was a profoundly weak person who made monstrous choices. I don't hate her, I feel nothing for her at all. Life is quiet. I've started reclaiming my space, both physically and mentally. I'm focusing on my work, I go for long walks, I'm starting to see friends again. The future isn't a bright, exciting vista, it's a quiet, empty plot of land. But the ground is stable. The title is clear, and for the first time in a very long time I'm ready to consider the blueprints.